And now it's time to welcome our first guest, Dr. Debi Lynes. She's a psychologist with over 30 years of experience as a counselor. Dr. Lynes is also an interior designer, using her knowledge to create therapeutic environments for her clients. Thanks for joining us today here on The Income Generation.
I'm really excited, and thank you for having me today. Excited to talk with you.
Well, same here. So let's get right to it. Tell our Income Generation members, what are some of the biggest mental and emotional issues that people tend to struggle from after they retire, that are perhaps a little bit more unique to retirement than they are people's working lives?
Well, let's say this, if I can, David. I think it's hard to tease out mental, physical, or emotional things as we age. They sort of all rolled into one. And so I think that's the first thing we really need to look at when we're talking about retiring. I think that what I do psychologically is I talk a lot about creating a home sanctuary. And what that looks like is, how do I best design my living spaces for mental health and wellness? And so that's really what I do.
So when you say design living spaces, you know, we're talking today a lot about a lot of hidden dangers, if you will, that health dangers that come into fruition once people retire. What are some of these hidden dangers for which you find this redesigning, if you will, to be a benefit to the individual?
Well, again, David, we're talking about not being able to tease it apart, but let's think about it this way, and I am my demographic. Insomnia is one of the major health issues and mental health issues that happens to people as they age, and you don't really think about it. And mobility issues are huge when it comes to aging in place or aging at all. Other things are fear of falling. I think people oftentimes think about being afraid of forgetting. As we age, our brain still works beautifully, but oftentimes it works a bit slower. And I think we oftentimes wonder about that as a hidden mental health danger. I think the other thing, and something that a lot of people talk about and I feel really strongly about, is isolation. I think as people retire, it means their world oftentimes goes from large to smaller. And isolation can cause a lot of things, and that's anxiety and depression. So those are things specifically that I think we need to watch and worry about.
So when you help redesign people's homes and so on, you know, I understand from a logistical standpoint how that might decrease the danger of falling or make them physically safer. But beside the physical aspect, how else does that help someone once they're retired, just from an emotional standpoint?
Well, let me tell you this. When you're retired, many of us have grandchildren, and we have people coming into our house. So the goal of having a home and a house and a sanctuary is what I call visitability. It's allowing people of any age and any physical ability to come into my home and feel comfortable, right? So I think that's number one. I think it's really important that we can get people to come in and we can create an environment of health and wellness. How do we do that? We have entryways that are wide, number one. Number two, when you drive up to someone's home and it's clearly marked, okay, I don't have to worry about someone not being able to find it. Even more basic than that, heaven forbid I fall and hit my head or do something and I need to call an EMS. If my home is clearly marked, then I have easy access for anyone to come in. And these are things I don't really think people think about as mental health or safety issues, but they are. And they're really, really important. Even things like being able to open my window blind or close my window blind as I'm getting older and retired is something that you may not think about, but is easily manageable. Something as basic as a toilet. I know it sounds silly, but again, you're talking about my demographic. Being
Sure.
able to get in and out of bed, off and on a toilet, is something that you really need to consider.
The basic needs, and also, like you said, the window blind. Just being able to get some bright light in there puts people in a better mood. So,
Well,
Dr.
light
Lynes,
is
we need to
huge.
take a commercial break right now.
Exactly.
Stay with us for another section, if you will. We'll be right back here with more on the income generation. You're watching Dr. Lynes and David Scranton. We'll be right back. And now it's time to welcome back Dr. Debi Lynes. Thanks for sticking around.
It's exciting to be here. Thank you again for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. So let's switch gears for just a minute here. You know, studies suggest that a lot of stress and frustration comes from people retiring and having retirement itself be drastically different from what they initially envisioned or initially hoped.
Okay.
Do you find that to be true in your own work?
You know, I do. And I find that the easiest way to overcome that is to manage expectations on the front side of it. What do I want my retirement to look like? What does retirement look like in 2019? It's oftentimes different than we think it may be. I mean, I'm 66 years old. And my idea of retirement is different than what my father's was and his father was. So I think there are things and easy, quick ways to manage those expectations. I'll give you a really simple example. We talked about it in the first segment. It's managing the isolation piece. It's finding ways that your world doesn't have to be more narrow. It's lifelong learning. There isn't a college out there now that doesn't offer lifelong learning kinds of opportunities, and typically they don't cost money. So that's always one way of managing retirement. The second thing is, what are your passions? What do you love? What have you always wanted to do that you haven't had time to do that you have now? Biophilia is something that's a big buzzword. You'll be hearing it a lot in 2020 and on, and that's bringing the outside indoors. And for retirees who may or may not be able to get where they want to go easily, bringing the outside in is often a really great way to manage mental health. So there's lots of different ways to retire, manage those expectations, and live a long, productive life.
Now, how big of a factor is staying physically active within all this?
You know, the mantra for my business is mind, muscle, mouth. And that's really very simple. And it is, the muscle piece is staying physically active. Movement. Motion is lotion. Second piece is nutrition. What I put into my mouth matters. And the third is mind. If I keep my mind healthy and active, I am going to be as healthy and well as I can be.
And if you think about all those really do go together. Exercise, physical, helps your mental state. What you eat helps your physical state. It all kind of goes together, does it not?
Well, and it's really interesting with facilitative and supportive design. That's what we're really saying. All of those things, plus your physical environment, are all part of wellness. And I think as we're getting older, what you do is amazing, because I think it isn't like our parents in retirement. There are so many options that we have now if we just educate ourselves.
Okay. So I'm getting your message loud and clear. When I retire, I'm going to redesign my home to be just like Margaritaville, and it'll keep me in the right state of mind and make me feel like I'm outside and so on. And I don't want to make light of it, but I think a big part of it is just that. A big part of it is keeping you happy. If you think retirement's going to be vacation, it's going to put you in a good mood, well then, get yourself in a place where you have that feeling every single day. We need to leave it there for now. Dr. Lynes, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.